Hey guys, it's Angelo, and welcome to my Shadow Priest guide for patch 9.0.1 in Battle for Azeroth, the pre-patch for World of Warcraft Shadowlands. This patch brings a lot of new features and new content to the spec, with many old abilities returning to the spec, alongside an entire spec rework with a load of brand new talents, a new rotation, new stat priorities, and many other things. Over the course of the Shadowlands Alpha and Beta, the Shadow Priest has seen a load of changes, and since the upcoming expansion has been delayed, we'll be playing the pre-patch for an extended period of time, giving you more time to get used to this brand new spec. In this guide, as in all of my previous guides, we'll go over what's changed for the Shadow Priest, and we'll talk about how these changes have impacted the spec, our stat priority, our talents and which ones to pick in certain situations, our rotation and how your essences tie into it, and of course your Azerite traits, and finally the overall pros and the cons of this new Shadow Priest. If you wish to discuss anything Priest or World of Warcraft related with fellow viewers or myself over on Discord, be sure to hit the link in the description box below to join the server. If you like what you see and this video will be helpful to you, then be sure to leave a like at the end and subscribe for future videos. Now, that being said, and without letting you wait any longer, my friends, let's go right ahead and have a look. First off, let's discuss what has changed for us as Shadow Priests this patch. If you haven't played World of Warcraft in a while and are returning this patch, then this section should get you back on track with the current standing of the Shadow Priest. If you have been following most of my previous videos, then you can essentially skip ahead. The timestamps are embedded in the YouTube player. Long story short, a lot has changed for this spec, quite frankly everything. Void Form is now a cooldown, and the spec plays very similar to like it did prior to Legion, with a builder and spender playstyle. Now when making this video, I wanted to make a list of spells which had been changed, removed or nerfed, but the truth is that nearly every single spell, talent or other aspect of our toolkit has been changed drastically in these past few months, so I'd only be cluttering the screen if I display all these changes. To summarize though, many talents have been changed or removed, new talents have been implemented, while some old spells have returned, specifically Devouring Plague and Shadow Word Death, which is of course now a spell and not a talent any longer. Void Form as a system has been removed completely, and Void Form now only serves as a damage cooldown every 90 seconds. Insanity, on the other hand, is still our resource, however it doesn't drain anymore, but instead it now is used to just be spent as insanity consuming spells, namely Devouring Plague and Searing Nightmare. Our damage revolves around the idea of building insanity via our core spells, so Mind Blast, Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, as well as Mind Flay and Mind Sear, while then spending that insanity on Devouring Plague or Searing Nightmare. We also generate some passive insanity, especially so in the pre-patch, with talents like Auspicious Spirits, and Azerite traits like Whispers of the Damned, or essences of course like Memory of Lucid Dreams. Overall, the Shadow Priest feels pretty smooth with decent gear, and our toolkit allows for a plausible solution to any problem we encounter, no matter if in single target or in multi-target situations. We're also quite mobile with the implementation of talents like Damnation or Unfurling Darkness, as well as with our new passive, Dark Thoughts, which gives us a chance to proc a free and instant cast of Mind Blast. If you were a big fan of the BFA and Legion Shadow Priest, well, you will most likely be pretty disappointed. If you enjoy a builder and spender playstyle though, enjoy dot management, use of instant casts, and just the old version of the Shadow Priest, well then this playstyle is definitely something for you. Alright, now let's go ahead and take a look at our stat priority and figure out what has changed. When it comes to our stat priority, we actually see quite a few changes which are important. Since corruption is gone, and since the stat squish has taken place, we will be valuing item level a lot more than before, specifically because intellect is strong due to this factor. This means that intellect is our priority now, after which comes haste again, as always, but now things change a bit. Mastery is ideally better than Critical Strike, so you'll want to aim for Mastery rather than Crit. The reason that Mastery is better now stems out of our redesign and the reworked Mastery Shadow Weaving, which increases our damage by the according amount of Mastery for each Shadow Arcane, Vampiric Touch, and Devouring Plague on the target. During Void form, all targets receive the maximum effect, so the same amount of damage as if they'd have all dots applied to them, no matter how many dots they really have applied to them. Though this mastery sounds very specific and a bit complicated, it's actually fairly simple, doesn't affect or alter the way you play, and just deals a lot of damage. Our priority will therefore ideally diverge us into a haste mastery centered build rather than a haste critical strike centered build. This means that we'll be relying less on crits to proc certain effects and more on raw and straightforward damage. All passives which formerly scaled or synergized with crit have mostly been changed accordingly, either not requiring crit to proc, like the Auspicious Spirits, which will proc guaranteed under their given circumstances, but simply proc twice when they crit, or rather when you crit, or Dark Thoughts, which just gives a flat chance depending on the amount of dots on your target. So, after Mastery then comes Critical Strike, and after Critical Strike comes Versatility. Stick to the stat priority and you should be perfectly fine. Next, let's talk about the new talents and what talent build you'll be playing with and why. Alright, let's start right off with the level 15 talent row. Here we have Fortress of the Mind, Death and Madness, which is replacing Shadowy Insights, and Unfurling Darkness, which replaces Shadow Word Void. In this talent row, all three talents can find their use, but currently both Fortress of the Mind and Unfurling Darkness are your realistic options, with Fortress of the Mind being the go-to option for raids, while Unfurling Darkness can be used in M+, or in raid encounters with ad spawns like the Hive Mind or even the Carapace of N'Zoth. Our level 25 talent row is entirely up to you, but Body and Soul will arguably be the most useful pick here, as both Sand Lane and Intangibility are situational talents. In our level 30 talent row, we have Twist of Fate, Misery, and Searing Nightmare, which replaces Dark Void. Currently all three talents will be finding their use in the pre-patch, with Twist of Fate being very strong on single target encounters like Mott or Shadar, while Misery is strong for any cleave fight and will be your go-to option there. Searing Nightmare is only really strong in Mythic Plus at the moment, and only if you'll be pulling huge amounts of trash. I've discussed this in my Shadow Priest rotation video for the pre-patch, so be sure to check that out for more info there. In our level 35 talent row, the choice is yours once more, with Last Word and Psychic Horror being the best options, well, most of the time. In the level 40 talent row, we have Auspicious Spirits, Psychic Link, and Shadow Crash. Currently, due to our Azurite traits and essences, you only really have one option here, and that is Auspicious Spirits. Your shadowy apparitions will be the majority of your damage and will even pull ahead of Devouring Plague if you have 3 Spiteful Apparition traits in your gear. Psychic Link and Shadow Crash will be more promising in Shadowlands though, but currently Auspicious Spirits will be your way to go. In our level 45 talent row, we have Damnation, Mindbender, and Void Torrent, with Mindbender winning in most situations and the other two being entirely situational at the moment. Mindbender just gives you the highest gain as it generates a lot of insanity, deals a decent amount of damage, and simply needs to be held on cooldown, which is honestly fairly simple to do. Damnation can be good for fights where you'll be moving frequently though, while Void Torrent is good when an enemy target needs to be bursted down quickly. Finally, in our level 50 talent row, we have Ancient Madness, Hungering Void, and Surrender to Madness. All three options are strong in their according environment. Ancient Madness is a decent all-round target which buffs your Void forms, while Hungering Void is insanely strong in any single target or 2-target cleave fight. Surrender to Madness is good when you can abuse it and force a second Void form every 90 seconds, making it competitive in Mythic Plus and on some fights like the Carapace of N'Zoth, the Hive Mind, or even Raw Den on Mythic difficulty arguably. Overall, our talents provide us with a beautiful amount of choice to deal with any given situation. Now some talents still require tuning. Hungering Void, for example, is quite strong at the moment, while Searing Nightmare feels comparatively weak, but that is something the developers should be focusing on for Shadowlands. Alright, next up, let's take a quick and simple look at our rotation. Our rotation is of course entirely different from how it was before, and the topic of rotation also includes our Azerite essences and traits, which also see some changes now. Starting us off with Azerite traits, you'll be running 1 Whispers of the Damned, 3 Spiteful Apparitions, and 2 Heart of Darkness in any given situation, while you'll be using Condensed Life Force as your major essence most of the time, with the essence of the Focusing Iris being good in Mythic Plus. For minor essences, Memory of Lucid Dreams, the Crucible of Flame, Breath of the Dying, and Focusing Iris are all competitive options. Now, I'll keep the actual talk about our rotation simple, because I've made a video about the rotation just yesterday where I go into detail. Your single target rotation is displayed on screen now, and in essence it boils down to building Insanity to spend on Devouring Plague, while keeping Void Bolt on cooldown while in Void form, and filling with Mind Blast and then Mind Flay. Maintain both Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain on your target at all times, and then just rinse and repeat the process. Again, if you want more detail here, be sure to check out my rotation guide where I discuss this in thorough detail. Our multi-target rotation transforms more into a priority list with priorities that need to be maintained, and the better you do so, well, the more damage you'll be able to deal. That is also to be displayed on screen now, and it essentially boils down to the single target rotation, but applied to all targets in front of you, with different priorities replacing those of a single target setting depending on the encounter. All in all, our rotation offers room for a lot of freedom now, allows for frequent movement, and is way more forgiving than the Legion and BFA rotation, since there's no Void form to fall out of anymore, which previously dictated our damage output entirely. Finally, let's address the pros and the cons of the spec, and let's summarize. The Shadow Priest is looking pretty strong during this pre-patch, a pattern that will most likely be traveling over to Shadowlands as well. Due to its rework, the spec has everything in its kit to deal with all forms of PvE and PvP content properly, not only damage-wise, but also from a utility and movement perspective. Our mobile form of dealing damage with many instant casts, paired with our flexibility when it comes to talents, helps us shine in all situations. We're able to funnel high amounts of single target damage into one single enemy, while we're also able to spread that damage onto almost unlimited numbers of enemies as well. This sets us apart from most other classes at this point, as most of our AoE damaging abilities are actually not capped, or are capped at numbers which are unrealistically high, meaning you will most likely only rarely encounter that many enemies at one given time to reach that cap. All in all, the Shadow Priest rework was a step into the right direction, as it'll make it a lot easier for the developer or developers to balance us, and offers us higher chances of being competitive in different aspects of the game, like higher level Mythic Plus for example. What do you think? How are you liking this rework so far? Any aspects of it you dislike, and if so, why? Be sure to let us know in the comments below, but apart from that, thank you so much for watching. If this video was helpful to you, be sure to leave a like, and if you wish to stay updated on the content of this channel, then feel free to subscribe. A special thanks to all of my supporters over on Patreon, you guys are awesome, and once more, thank you everyone for watching. Now, as always, have a good one my friends, enjoy the pre-patch, get excited for Shadowlands, and I will see you all in the next one.